So I wanted to talk about guitar EQ because it's something that in the past I've spent way too long on, and it's because I didn't really have a clear plan or vision for what I was trying to do. So I boiled it down to a 5-step process that you can follow on your next mix. So I've got the session here. The red here has got the rhythm guitars, and then we've got a lead guitar and a bass guitar, and I'll just play what it sounds like right now. The first step is simply just listen to what you've got and try and make notes of what it is you're hearing that's wrong. Because once you hear what's wrong, you can fix it rather than just shooting in the dark. So let's do that now. Okay, so to my ears, the guitars sound quite bright, maybe a bit too bright for this kind of mix, and quite scooped, and then there's also a bit of ringing that I hear. So we'll try and fix that. First of all, let me just look at it on the graph, and we can let me move that over, and we can kind of see what it actually looks like, where the frequencies are that we need to fix. So in Pro Q here, we can see that, as I said, the guitar's quite bright. There's a lot of energy at sort of the top of the end of the graph. And then there's barely anything sort of 200, 300, which is why it sounds kind of quite scooped. Obviously, don't make too many decisions from the graph, but it's a useful tool to be able to see exactly what's going on. So step 2 is going to be sort of broad shaping. So I'll grab a SSL channel and put it on the guitars. So I've got a channel strip here, and we're going to use this just so we're not relying on the graph to make decisions. And we're going to make some sort of broad moves on the guitars. For this, I'll start in solo, and then I'll move to in the mix and make the final decisions from there. Just because when you're mixing solo, it's a bit easy to hear exactly what you're doing. Obviously, you don't do all your mixing in solo. For now, I'll just start there. So that was 2 moves that I brought down some of this sort of high mid stuff, and then tried to bring up some of the low mids as well. And that seems to have warmed out the tone a bit. I'll just listen to it in the mix and see if what I've done is actually any good. Yeah, to my ears, that's kind of warmed up the tone, made it a bit less bright and a bit aggressive in the top end that I didn't like as much of. So now that we've made some broad moves, step 3 is going to be to correct some of the nastiness. So for this, I'm actually going to get a Pro Q out again, and we're listening out for any sort of rings, any fizzes, anything that sounds wrong as opposed to being sort of the shape of the tone. So for this kind of stuff, these kind of rings, we want a high Q, so very narrow band, and then we're only gonna bring it down a little bit. So here I'm just gonna bring it down by, say, 3 dB, and that should get rid of the ring there. I hear another one as well. Let me try and find it. Yeah, there it is. We're gonna do, I don't know, 3 dB. The number doesn't matter too much, it just matters where it is. If you take too much of it out, though, it does kind of kill the life of the tone, so that's why with this kind of stuff, small moves is usually better. And I'm not a big fan of some of this high-end stuff here, so let me just try and locate the bit I don't like and then remove it. Yeah, that sounds about right. And then this sort of mid-rangey bit here, it's quite honky, it's a bit nasty, so I'm just going to try and tame that a bit. And then I think finally I'm going to just bring up the entire mid-range in general. just because I feel like the tone is quite focused around the really low lows and the really high highs. So I just kind of want to bring the general mid-range up quite a bit. And then clearly you want to be bypassing the moves that you make, so you can hear that you're making something that actually sounds better. Yeah, so to me that sounds a bit smoother. Now we're going to go to the mix and then see how that sounds in the mix, and then if we need to make any further changes, we will do. It does sound better. One thing I would do though is I want to bring up some of this sort of 4 to 5k, just because I feel that the tone got a bit too dull. Yeah, that sounds better to my ears. Now step 4 is sort of where you can lose all of your time, and it's fine tuning. So we've kind of made these pretty quick decisions here. And step 4 is you kind of want to go back and make sure every decision you've made is actually good. So in the past, this is basically where I lose all my time. And so to fix that, my rule is going to be, if you can't hear any difference in the mix itself, then don't bother making the move. So we're going to just listen to it and just see if there's any fine tuning stuff we can make. So obviously you could spend a lot longer on this, but I've just done this quite quickly for the video. But to my ears, it sounds more polished. It sounds a bit more professional there. And so our fifth and final stage is going to be referencing. So obviously we know how this sounds in the context of the mix, but our ears are going to get used to how it sounds in the context of this mix. So if we use references, we can kind of give our ear a change of palette, and we can hear how our thing sounds in the context of other pieces of music, which is usually quite useful. So obviously I'm not going to let you hear my references for copyright reasons, but use the references and then make adjustments from there. Yeah, to my ears, that sounds like it's in a pretty good place. So if we listen to where we started off and where we are now, you can hear it's a massive difference. So I'll mute the plugins for now, and then we'll hear what they sound like. All right, final thing to mention, you can actually bring up the level of the guitars usually after you've made these things because they sound less harsh now. You can bring them up higher in the mix and have them less fatiguing to listen to. So if we do that here, so you'll hear now that they sound a bit sort of low in the mix. So if we bring up this limiter here to, I don't know, 9 maybe, they'll probably sound a bit more appropriate now. Yeah, that sounds about right to me. Because before they were so harsh in the top end, it meant that it was kind of hard to push them up in the mix without it sounding really fatiguing. So it sounds a lot warmer, a lot less harsh. A lot of the sort of rings and stuff in the high end are gone. And you might have to go back and forth between a few of these processes because you might find that some of the corrective moves you make it sound a bit too dull and then you need to bring up some of those frequencies again. So you might have to go back and forth, but the point of this is just to show that you don't need to be spending a million years trying to EQ guitars. You can do it in just 5 steps, albeit you might want to go back and forth between a few of those steps. Hope that helps. See you later.